is the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast, hosted by me, Kelly Donahue Piro. This show is for growing insurance agencies looking to maximize their biggest investment, their people. Listen to the top agency performance partners clients share their story on how they boosted their performance by executing a plan. Let's head to the show.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's the mayor here, Heath Sharon, and I'm super excited because I'm hosting another person's show. So it's cool for me to sit here on the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast. Kelly's off having fun in Hawaii, so let's feel sorry for her right now. But I'm sitting here with my new friend, Jeff Sophiea, and I'm super excited. We got to meet at IAOA. And he really stood out to me and what he's doing. And he's been helping agents hire for over 6 years and probably worked with thousands of agents. He can probably tell you more about it. He's also been in our space and worked in agencies before, so he understands it. And I'm going to get out of the way and let him tell his story a little bit. So, Jeff, won't you give us a few minutes of your background? Tell us who you are.
Heath, appreciate you, man. I appreciate you having me. Not on your show, but Kelly's.
Yeah, dude.
No, I'm excited to meet you, and it's been great watching what Kelly's doing. I've been checking out her site, and I'm excited to check out your podcast too. I think you guys both have a lot of amazing things going on. But yeah, so I've been doing this for about 6.5 years now. I started when I was in college, and before that, I worked at on the captive side of an all-state agency. And what I've seen, and in my years here at Ideal Traits, talking to thousands of agents, I think now it's safe to say it's been harder to find and hire people than ever before. And yeah. Kelly and I were just having a good conversation about that. However, you talk to a lot of agents, a lot of customers, and a lot of agents that, they want good people, they need good people to grow. And I definitely think that there's a lot of people out there we're seeing on a daily basis where there's agents that are implementing good practices. They're adapting, they're changing in ways to find good people, right?
Yeah,
that makes the difference.
It does. And Jeff, let's go back a little bit to even your days in the agency side.
Sure.
And one of the things that, as we talk to agents on a regular basis at APP, one of the things that comes up every day is hiring. Everybody's looking for the next agent or the next producer or the next CSR or account manager. And even going back 20 years, it's not a new problem. People are still, having this issue of trying to find help and find good help. Even going back to your days at Allstate, what does that look like for you? What was that like? Did you have any part in that in the agency of hiring? And did you find trouble there as well?
Sure. And even here at Ideal Traits, I've helped with the hiring. We've grown as a company into over 30 employees, but when I first started, it was just a few of us. So I'd be a part of that hiring process. And I would say there was more applicants applying, and it was easier to get referrals back in the day, right? I think of, a lot of agents like to reach out to the community and have their existing network to hire people. And I think that's amazing. I mean, statistically proven, you're going to find more people that way. It's just like an internet lead. Like I think of an internet lead, the same thing as an applicant applying from the job board as a referral. However, the well runs dry in both referrals, and that's why agencies have internet leads, and that's why you should have applicants apply. You should have a funnel of people applying from the job boards because 73% of insurance hires are coming from the job board. So I would say that it's gotten more difficult over the years. And getting back to that point, it's like, the agents that adapt, and I know it's difficult. I know it's not going to be the easy button, but the agents that adapt and offer remote work or offer hiring bonuses or, really market themselves like to the point where they're selling their agency and allowing those candidates in the community to know what they're really about, the culture, the career, the compensation. It makes a difference. And those agents tend to be more successful with hiring right now than the average agent who maybe hasn't hired in a while and hasn't really adapted yet.
Yeah, I was telling you a little bit before we hit record. My son and I were driving down the road and we saw a sign for a major fast food chain. And the amount of perks they were putting out there of paid vacation and the highest pay I've seen for a fast food worker and benefits and 401k and health insurance and all this stuff. And that sign's been up there for like 3 weeks and they're still having trouble finding people. And so even outside of our industry, and I know you work in the insurance space, but I'd love to hear your perspective on why is it so difficult for people I know there's people that want to, but let's focus on people that don't right now. Why is it so difficult, you think, for people to find help right now? Why do people not want to? What do you think that is?
The agents you're saying that don't want to find help?
No. The people that don't want to go to work.
Oh, sure.
Whether it's a fast food chain or whether it's an insurance agency.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's crazy what we've seen, but there's two. I think there's two parts to that. Number one, let's call a spade a spade. There are lazy people out there, right? That don't want to work, and without getting like political on this podcast.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get political, but I do want to.
Yeah, we've seen how crazy this year and last year has been, and that's definitely made an impact.
Yeah,
but Heath, Mayor, to really sit there and say, I give up on hiring, right? I think that's the weak approach, and it's only hurting yourself as that business owner. And it's really tough to stop. I get it. Like as a business owner, it's tough to step in your shoes if you have a tough market, or you've hired, you keep hiring and no one works out. Like that's frustrating. Totally get it. But I would say there's people on the other side, that really do want to find a good home. Agents, I would say, on average, do a poor job of branding themselves. So let me tell you this, Heath. So probably once a week, I'm talking to an agent, and we're on the phone together, and they are telling me about how great their agency is. Yeah. Okay, so they're telling me about how well they pay their people and how great of a time it is, how they throw Taco Tuesdays, whatever it might be. How successful the agency has been, and then I look at their job ad, or I look at what they have displayed on the web about them, about the agency, and none of that's on there. And so I think that when we look at that and we see like, okay, and now hiring sign out, or, hey, I want a licensed person. Okay, we're really just talking about what we want from the candidate and not talk about how, hey, this is what you're going to be able to experience if you come work here.
Yeah.
And so I would say, talk about the winning atmosphere. Talk about
your culture. Yeah,
sure.
No,
I think that's a difference. And then people talk about it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think there's a lot of agencies that may not know how to tell their brand, maybe not know how to.
Yeah. Or they're just they're humble, right? And I get it, but winners want to work for winners, Heath. Don't you agree? I mean, I think that's important to sit back and think. And, some of these independent agents, you guys, there's something about you guys that makes you unique and makes you special. And if you put that on the ads and you talk about that in your interviews, it'll go a long way. Yeah,
no, I completely agree. And I think that it goes back to, even if you want to go from like a sports perspective, you look at like football, like Jerry Jones is not afraid to talk about how wonderful the Cowboys are. They probably haven't won a Super Bowl in however many years, or a playoff game for that matter in a while, but they're consistently been a winner in that fact. This year they're doing fine. And I'm not a Cowboys fan.
Talent still keeps going there, though.
Right. Talent still wants to go there because of the eccentric, owner they've got. And I can talk about Jerry Jones. He's from Arkansas. So, woo, I'm proud. But at the same time, I think he's built that culture there, winning or losing. People want to go there still.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, I think it goes back to your point of building that up and talking about it and not being afraid to share your wins and share about how great you are and talk about, those type of things. And in your agency, if you do Taco Tuesday, talk about it. If you have, a great compensation package, talk about it. If you've got, employee benefits and things like that you want to highlight, talk about those things. I think the other thing that also helps, and maybe you can help me in this as well, is having other teammates talk about it and having them recruit for you as well.
So I completely agree with you. Actually, through Ideal Traits, I'm sure other platforms can do this too, but you'll have a career page that you can send out to your existing employees, right? And you can have, if you want to do an employee referral through your team, something I recommend. I mean, I think it's worth it in the long run if you find someone good. But you send it out to all your employees. They can share it with their friends. They can text their friends, email them, put it on social media, and it'll have a picture of your agency. It'll have a logo of your office. It'll have, the job opportunities. And I just think it's important to do, because if you want good people and if you have awesome employees right now, ask who they know. Yeah. And they're going to give the best feedback possible because they like working there. They're going to say what they like about you. They're going to say what they like about the company, and they're going to say what they like about maybe the career path. So basically you got people working on your side And yeah, I would say give them a little bonus because they're doing that for you too, and they're adding to the team. So I agree with you, Heath. I think that's something that's pretty missed by most agents.
I think you nailed it. If you've got a good team and you've got people that love working for you, people want to work in an environment where they love to go to work. They want to work in a culture where it's fun to go to work. It's exciting. They love their team. They're all chasing after the same goals. So if you've got that, why not have them, your ambassador, your brand ambassador out there talking about it, and give them those liberties and those freedoms to share some of that stuff on social media or to talk about those things. If they love it that much, whether they're at Sunday school at church or they're at the grocery store, people are going to talk to them. They're going to end up talking about, oh man, I've had a great day today. I love going to work, and Jeff is awesome to work with, and we've done this or that, or man, we had a great lunch today, or we did Taco Tuesday, to go back to your example.
Right.
People are gonna be like, man, I want to work there. Let me know next time you have an offering or an opening.
And that's it's such easy. It's easy marketing for you, right?
Yeah.
That's just what it is. And when I think of like marketing your agency, it's like marketing a product. I mean, you could have the greatest agency and the greatest value proposition for people to work, but if you're not marketing it, if you're not having your employees be brand ambassadors for you, and again, it is tougher. I get, like, if there's some brand new agents out there that are joining in, tuning in on the podcast, you're at a tougher level because, hey, you might not be able to offer the certain benefits that the average agent can, and you don't have any existing employees. But that just means you got to be more proactive and you got to be more creative. And there is a lot of people that do not want to work at a corporate office,
right?
And the opportunity is amazing for that office manager or that person that starts out as the first employee at an office. They can make good money, and then they can firsthand see how it is to open up an agency and the wrong things to do and the right things to do. So that's how you can position it as a new agent if you got candidates that you need to hire.
Right. I also, I think that going back to, your team and building that culture, I think that, everything you accomplish as a leader and as an agency owner, hinges around the people on your team and the people that are around you. And I think there's a huge cost of having a bad hire. And I think that's crucial. I know you could probably echo some of this, but, obviously, you think about, the cost of a bad hire could be, the emotional energy. If you've got a bad person in there that doesn't fit, they're going to bring down the rest of the team, right?
Then employee morale, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's an intangible cost. It's really tough to really measure that. But, oh man, I mean, if it's negativity and not positivity, you're on the phone talking to agents every day, and they're on the phone talking to. I'm on the phone talking to agents, and you are too. They're on the phone talking to
their clients. Yeah,
their clients.
They're talking to prospects. They're talking to clients. They're talking to people like that. Go ahead.
That are representing you in the community, and I think that's huge. If the employee morale is lower, I've seen it firsthand in an agency, and I have agent friends that tell me, "Man, I got to get rid of this person." Because
you also think about the time wasted. If you've spent, let's say you spent 90 days developing this person and spending time training them and putting all this time and effort into them, and they don't work out, think about how much time you've wasted and how much time you spent doing that.
For sure. I mean, I know Career Builder about 7 years ago said the average cost of a bad hire is about $50,000, but it's only probably gotten higher since then. And, it's, even if you wanted to cut it in half, 25,000, cut it in half again, it's still very costly. So
money is money regardless. Most agency owners, they don't want to lose a penny, much less 25 grand or 50 grand. Then you think about that time you spent, recruiting and training, and it's just, you've spent all that time that you could have been developing somebody else on your team, or, you could have spent that time doing better things, selling insurance, for example.
Yeah. And Heath, I'm looking at your shirt right now, and you're representing Agency Performance Partners. I think that as an agency, especially, I would say independent, if you really are proud of your brand and your logo, buy the whole agency some shirts to wear. Yep. It makes a complete difference, and people get more pumped up about it. There's a lot of hidden benefits, I would say. People, I get it. The third thing they see on the job boards, they go is the compensation. So they see the title of the ad, insurance sales representative, or whatever it might be, the the company, and then the compensation. So compensation typically is most important because it's what hooks people. However, that's not the only reason people apply. As we talked about, culture, the career opportunity, and doing things like that, the little things of having your whole team get invested and, be behind the brand. You mentioned, they at a bonfire or wherever they might be, and someone sees a shirt, they're not going to know what. It's not like it's Ford or it's Apple. It's a small agency that they're like, oh, that's a cool logo. Like, who do you work for? And then the conversation gets started that way. So that's a little thing where I would spend $500 for sure, $1,000, and get everyone some cool company swag.
No, I completely agree. And I want to go back a second to what you just said, because I love it. Because, compensation is important, but I think there's other motivating factors and other compensation outside of money. And so for that producer or that ridiculously amazing insurance agent listening to this show, they might be having a hard time with hiring, and they might trying to think outside the box of what other ways to, entice people or to engage people in employment. What are some other ways that you can incentivize people outside of the paycheck?
Sure. So most of the agents probably listening have already heard this one, and it might be a tough one to hear because you might not want to offer it, but it is remote. Since COVID, there's a lot of talent, especially at a producer position. I mean, shoot, even myself, I'm sitting at my house. I did not want to leave the office during COVID. I was one of those guys, right? And a lot of my friends were the same way. I have a lot of friends that work at agency, but we all, you get adjusted. And then they ask you to come back, and it's like, wait, I like how my laundry is always clean. I like how my house is clean, and I'm still, I can still be on the phone, building relationships. So we got to think about the percentage of good candidates we're missing out on. So if you have good systems in place, or if you don't, I recommend getting some good systems in place. And you don't have to start them out as remote, but you can ease your way into it.
Yeah, maybe 2 days a week remote or 3 days a week remote. Yeah.
And I would say the second thing is hiring bonuses. So,
okay,
that is something that's really attractive right now. It could be
even on the insurance side of things.
Yeah, especially.
I know you work with agencies, so you're saying, now whether it's producer or account manager or CSR or whatnot, you're saying a sign-on bonus.
Yeah,
is another way.
Well, let's think about this. Okay, so and not every agent wants them to be strictly licensed right off the back when they're hiring someone, especially because they could come in with bad habits. And that's something we recommend at Ideal Traits. I've been preaching that is, look for people that you can mentor because they tend to work out better. Although it's, you got to go through the short-term effects or the short-term, it's delayed gratification with that. It's not instant because you're training them. They might not pass their test. But with those people, typically agents will offer reimbursement on the licensing. And the time and the money spent there could be a lot. So think about the licensed candidate. Well, why not take that $500 or $1,000 and use it for the sign-on bonus? And my thought is it doesn't have to be on the sign-on date, but 60-day, 90-day probation period, you can funnel it in. You can sprinkle in 500 and then 750 and then 1,000. And you can then that allows you to put it on the ad and attract more people. And that's really been making a difference for a lot of agencies out there.
That's good. So anything else you can think of maybe to help them think outside the box? You brought up two great ones, remote work and sign-on bonuses. Anything else that you've seen out there that you recommend?
Yeah, I think when we look at, well, number one, I kind of want to go back to that example you talked about with the Cowboys. I'm a Lions fan, right? And they suck. Oh. They're never going to be good. I mean, that's just that's just the way it is. At least at least my dad's 60. He's like 73, and he's never going to see a Super Bowl because they never can attract good people and they can't develop the people, right? So, and they
couldn't even keep Barry Sanders. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, you play for that long, and you're just like, it's like Calvin Johnson too. They don't want to stay there. But then you looked at like Alabama in college; they're always building a pipeline of talent. Always. If a star quarterback or a star receiver go out, it's okay because they got a pipeline. So the first point I would make is always having an ad out there. Always be recruiting, even when you're fully staffed. And it's okay that the tides have turned with that. I know sometimes we could say, well, that's not fair because you're advertising something that you don't have an open position. Well, candidates are applying all the time when, there's a 0.01% chance they might give up their current job. They're just looking. So creating that benchmark of people, because always considering who would apply and who might leave on a given day, right? So if it's if you could create a good pipeline, and we have this personality assessment ideal traits that a candidate will take, and you can see their characteristics and you can match it up to your top producers. And if you have, let's just say Freddie or Julie that leaves the office, they hopefully give you a 2-week notice, but even that might not be enough time to find someone good. But if you can go to a benchmark of candidates that are lined up with the same personality and maybe the same skill set as a Julie or Freddie, how much better are you in a position? So that's what I mean by having a base benchmark of candidates like Alabama and the Patriots or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have now, right? I think that's extremely important. Right.
Yeah, preach, man. I think that's something that we at APP preach in our programs is always be recruiting. Okay. And it goes back to that old movie, Gary Glenn, always be closing. But I think it's the same thing with recruiting, because you're right. And one of the things we talk about at APP is being prepared for, let's say that Freddie, as you mentioned earlier, Freddie gets hit by a bus, or Freddie wins the lottery. Yeah. And Freddie decides the next day, man, I'm $1 million richer. I don't need to come to work anymore. I'm going to live on the beach somewhere. You got to be willing to step somebody in that role. And I think if you're always recruiting, you can do that a lot easier.
And instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, and you should commit to your employees, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you got to. I mean, Kelly and you have a great relationship, but you never know. I mean, although you got an emotional involvement, attachment to the company, like you can't always put your eggs in one basket as a business owner. You just can't. It's not, if you put too much emotion to it, when you're hiring process or committing to that employee and acting like that person is never going to leave, you're only screwing yourself there, because it certainly could happen. And it's not fair to you. You put too much financial risk to start the agency. Another thing I would say is reviews right now. I mean, that's really important. So like your Facebook reviews, your Google reviews, you already know this for selling, right? You're selling policies, but also for people to work there. They're checking that all the time. So make sure you have good reviews and ask people to help you out with those reviews if you feel like you're doing a great service to them and the employees like it at your office.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. One of the producers that I work with here in Arkansas, he does a thing where every time they get like a really good review, he blows that up into like a poster. Like, in high school, you had like Michael Jordan on your wall. Like he's got the poster.
Talking about like the fat heads?
Yeah, the fat heads. You can do that too. But he's got them like these huge posters framed and everything that Freddie was great at his job. He helped me, blah, blah, blah. And he's got it framed sitting right there in the office. And it's just like, it's awesome to see. And that employee is just beaming. And every time someone comes in and reads, it's like, oh, that's you in that review. And, I think that's another way, of retaining employees, but also getting those employees to talk about your company and how great it is. And imagine when Freddie goes home, he's got that poster on the wall in the office that says how great he is. He's going to go home and tell everybody about that.
It's awesome. And the cheesy, again, like my personality, maybe yours, like, we don't want people to sugarcoat stuff. Like we want to hear, and the typical salesperson's like that, but we got to think about every personality in the office. A lot of people want positive reinforcement. You can't come out with a negative right away. You got to say something positive then first, and then, do the positive reinforcement. But I would say like, to your point, and Kelly and I were having a good conversation about this, you got to find out what motivates people, and things can change with your current employees. So if baseball games, is something they enjoy, buy them baseball tickets every once in a while. But if it's something, they love their wife or they love their husband and they want more date nights, send them, buy them a nice gift card to an expensive restaurant and hire them a babysitter for the night. I don't know. Think outside the box.
No, I completely agree, because
it hits home.
Yeah. Going back to, changing within your staff, Julie or Susie or whoever, example you used a minute ago of a name was, could have ended up having a baby in the last year and they didn't have one before. It's a huge change. So they might want that, a little bit more time off. They might want to get, a different change in their hours, or like you said, remote work 3 days a week. So they can be home with, their baby, or whatever it might be. Or like you said, I'm a babysitter from time to time. What if think outside the box on that? You're right. Or even if, you can go real old school, if they, little Timmy plays baseball, you could support the baseball team and help buy their uniforms or, get their balls or their bats or their whatever.
That's huge, right? Like community, or some people are motivated by community involvement. That's another thing I forgot to mention. I don't see that enough on ads or company websites. People truly care about it. And that's something I wish we had time to do more.
Especially with, and not to talk generationally, but a lot of the millennials, that's been a proven thing. They're really big into that.
Or pet insurance, man. All my friends nowadays, I'm 26 now, and it's almost every kid has a pet. And I think pet insurance is big because, a lot of them don't have big pockets. So that's another way to attract
that's a good idea.
Millennials.
Again, I think it's just thinking outside the box to find those people. And then I think on top of that, once you attract them and hire them, do you guys have much in the way of developing talent once you get them hired, or is that just something that you guys stop at the hiring?
Great question. So I would actually refer over to you guys in that segment, because I know you guys do a great job with that. You guys have training courses on it. What we do is we provide the platform. So when it comes, so we're partnered with the Big I, we're partnered with the PIA. We're going to be partnered with different other companies inside the independent space too. That's coming here in next year. Some of the big companies. So what agents would use us for is to attract candidates on all the main job boards. We're partnered with Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Google for Jobs, Glassdoor. But as we mentioned, going out to these job boards really mean nothing unless you have a solid ad nowadays. It's got to be mobile friendly. You should have it search engine optimized, and it needs to be attractive. So here at our company, we'll help with that to make sure it's a solid ad. Just like if you're posting an ad on Google or Facebook, and if it doesn't work, that probably means you don't have a solid ad, right? So that's where we're going to help. And then we'd have an assessment that gets administered to every candidate that applies, helping you really zero in on the people that are a better fit versus just looking at a resume, the typical hiring process.
So if I'm XYZ insurance agency owner and I need to hire, or I'm always hiring for that matter, I put it out on LinkedIn, I put on Monster Jobs and maybe, Indeed. That's enough, right?
So
first off, setting you up here, bro.
I know. Well, first of all, I'm just thinking of how inconvenient that is. You're literally logging into like 6 different sites, right? So that's one thing where you're going through Ideal Trades and it's one portal.
Yeah.
It's one ad. Yeah. You can track that one ad, and then it shouldn't stop there. And studies show that if you have a good process that is engaging candidates from the start, getting them to engage right away. So you'll see a lot of people that don't take the assessment, and these are the people that aren't as interested in the position. And then you have the people that do take the assessment, and it gets organized for you in a way where you can reach out to the people that come back and take the assessment, come back with a good result that matches up to your current employees, or comes back with, maybe if you're looking for sales, a strong, one of the results is a sales leader. It'll talk about how they're persuasive and motivated. They're more proactive. And again, every personality has strengths and weaknesses, but we want to make sure that the strengths are matching up with the role that you need them to fulfill. If it's sales, I don't know anyone who doesn't want a motivated person who can make a lot of calls and it really enjoy building relationships. And so it'll show you on that assessment if they can do it. And on the flip side, I was looking at a stat before we got on the phone. 58% of employees, I should say job seekers and employees, have had this past year, they've declined a job offer because they felt like they had a negative overall experience with that company that they were going to work for, or interview that they went through the interview process. So I would say, number one, you always got to keep in mind that you got to treat candidates like your current customers. I think that's important, and that's tough to do, right? Typically, it's different. Your customers are actually giving you money and giving you business, and candidates aren't. But first off, you never know if those candidates might be your customers one day. And second, you want these people that you're engaging with to have a great experience so they can go and tell other people about it. Because maybe they're not a good fit, but then they can go tell, Heath, you could tell one of your friends about, the position you applied for. If it's something that's not a good fit for you, but you thought they did an excellent job and it could be a good fit, you like the people. So I just say, keep that in mind, because these are the stats that we're getting.
So we need to focus strongly on the hiring experience more than just the post.
Yeah, the overall process.
You hear a lot about customer experience or the customer journey or the whatever, but you don't really think a lot about, or I don't, and maybe I'm wrong. I haven't really thought a whole lot about the hiring experience. So I like that, to think about it from that perspective.
And most of the agency owners, they have typically a strong personality. Yeah, because I've assessed a lot of agency owners in my years here, and they take the assessment. They come back as like one of the results of a sales leader or closer. Again, strong motivation, strong persuasiveness. But what do we all have in common in that strong sales personality is we make mistakes and we tend to be careless. Sometimes we tend to not follow the process, right? So,
right.
If you want a strong sales process where you don't be, if you follow a strong sales process, you're most likely going to have a more successful given year because you're following a process. And that's the same with the hiring process. You want to eliminate cognitive biases, and you want everyone to go through the same process, whether it's your best friend, maybe your once fraternity brother that wants to come work for you, or it's someone random applying from the job boards. They should all have that same process, because again, it gets back to you, and it gets back to you having to go through all this misery or spending a bunch of money, training someone when you could have eliminated that risk in the beginning.
Okay. And so part of that hiring experience, you talk about that process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer in it being more than just a 1 or 2 step process. And I believe that, in my opinion, it's got to go beyond just getting the resume or an interview. I really think, we'll go back to the team, for example. Okay. I think having your team involved in the hiring process is huge. I think maybe even having like 2 or 3 of your team members sitting down with said client or said, whatever prospective hire, to sit down and say, what are your thoughts?
No, I love it. And one of the steps in the hiring process, I would say, is have them shadow someone in the office. Once you get to a point where after the interview, you really liked it. You thought it was a great, solid interview, but you're like, well, do they really know the role? And some people, especially if they haven't been in insurance sales before, they don't know how tough it can really be. So have them shadow one of maybe your top producers or your producer that just started at the agency. And
so you could have them involved in the process from 2 different ways, to have them involved in the interview process, because I think we may have certain blinders on as the agency owner, whereas one of the agents in the office or the account managers or somebody else will be able to tell better if they're a cultural fit, or if they have the motivational factors they need, or if they have the same values. It might be able to give you a different perspective as the agency owner on who to hire in that role. And then I like the idea you said of having them, take that step further. If you do decide to go forward and say, okay, thank you, Jeff, for, helping us interview them. They're going to shadow you for 60 days, 30 days, 2 weeks, whatever it might be. I like that.
But dude, and I feel like, because my manager, I'm not as involved in our interview process right now, because it becomes so standardized, and sometimes they'll bring me in. But before, when we were a lot smaller, I was in it a lot. And what really made me feel a part of the company is when my manager would come to me and say, hey, what do you think about that past candidate? I want to hear your thoughts. It's important to me. And I think it goes a long way. So you're serving 2 purposes there. Like you said, you're getting another look, and you're making that your current employees feel really good about themselves, allowing them to really know, like, hey, your opinion means a lot to me. And I don't want anyone working here that doesn't fit our culture, doesn't fit what we stand for. And, when you reach out to someone like that as part of the team, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think that it goes beyond, like I said, let me ask you this, just for the mayor's, inquiry. Do people even use resumes anymore, even care about resumes? Or can you just basically get on LinkedIn and look at their Facebook and kind of figure out everything you need to know?
Sure. Well, I would say it still should be a part of your process,
right?
Is looking over the resume. But I look at it this way. I didn't come up with this line, but a guy that used to work at our company before he retired, he would say this to me: is there's only 2 times someone's perfect in their life. It's when they're born and on their resume.
Right.
Nowadays, everyone's got a perfect resume, because you got so many resources to make it a perfect resume without lying. You can just a white lie with all these roles.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not fair to the agent.
I'm not gonna lie, we've all done it. If you're listening, I know you added an extra year or two to your resume, or you might have bumped your title up just a little, or
the community involvement.
I mean, there's a lot of those things that go on. None of us are totally innocent on that, but I think that's a great quote when you're born and on your resume. And that's why I ask that, because even, back to my days in the agency, I didn't necessarily put a huge emphasis on the resume. It's important to see it, but it's more of a glance, say, okay, they've had some experience.
Yeah. Yep. And it does tell a story of the candidate. But I would say personality, their problem solving capabilities, how they sound on the phone. I think those are more important than what you see on the resume. And that's where, we tend to get bogged down. We just want to check to see if they have sales experience, if they have a license. Okay, great. But listen, I'm not saying this candidate might not be a good fit, but why are they applying to your agency if they're licensed? Why aren't they liking the current agency they're working for? It could be flip-flopped. It could be that the candidate didn't work out. So these are all things we got to think about. And if we don't measure try to predict their performance with an accurate assessment or other ways, whatever you use to do it, you're not doing the due diligence, and it's just going to come back to bite you.
Holy crap. We've got a big elephant just walked in the room, and I want to address it for a minute. So I know a lot of agents right now listen to this. It's on their brain. It's the elephant in the room right now. So I'm going to ask the question and see what your thoughts are. Obviously, insurance hiring has a lot to do with the pay structure, whether commission versus salary versus, commission and salary. I know a lot of agents ask you about that. What do you guys, do y'all advise in that, or do you guys get involved in that? What do you see in that?
Good question. So I actually just did a webinar, and I can attach it to whatever, I don't know how you guys are going to post this, but I can attach it and send this out. It's a video. You just put in some info and you can watch it. And we did it with, we wanted to do it because that's been the most common question this year.
The elephant in the room, baby.
Right. Like, what are the compensations? What are people want
to know, and every agent wants to compare themselves to others. And what do you pay with? And I heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah,
but anyhow,
sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, but here's the thing. There are some dinosaur pay plans, but some of those dinosaur pay plans still work. So it's all subjective, like on what works and what doesn't. I would say, if you want a good producer and you don't really like firing people, you come up with a plan where if they're not producing, they're not making money.
Right.
And if they're producing a high level, they're going to make good amount of money to where you might be looking at that commission check. You might be like, oh, this is a lot I'm paying Joe or Julie. But then you think about, right, all the business they're bringing in, the upsell, cross-sell opportunity within the book, and the renewals you get from later years. If you have good retention rate, it's okay. You should be rewarding people who are producing a high level. So, and this gets back to probably having a lower base and higher commission. Right now, people are wanting a bigger base. So I would say having an attractive bigger base, but then also like having a certain draw plan where if they hit 10 items, or you hit a certain percentage of commissions, and then if you hit 15 items or 20 items, you can do it with homes or auto, or it can go by premium, which is what I like more, because that's an actual number versus one house that could be way different than in premium than another house, right?
Yeah, maybe scale back from the salary and raise the commission or lower the.
And that's the tough part, because I think I'm always a proponent of having higher commission than the salary, because you really attract those people that want to go get it, especially the people right out of college. But then I contradict myself a little bit, because right now people want a stronger salary. So that's where you got to adapt.
I completely agree with you. And I'm a second generation insurance professional. And so coming out of college, I'm in I'm 21, and my dad comes to me and says, you can make as much money as you want to. Now I look back, I know what Dad's cheap ass was doing, but at the time I'm looking at it, he's just like, the sky's the limit how much you can make. And I like ran through a brick wall. I was like, I'm in. I'm 21. I've got nothing to lose. I'm not married. I don't need kids. What? And
the sacrifice that you can make at that stage. Right.
Yeah. And sure enough, I get it. And I was able to do that. And I grew a good sized book, and everything was great. but I was straight commission, and my commission was higher than the guy next to me in the agency because he was a little split of salary and commission. But it worked for him. It motivated me by that time. Now, if he came to me at 41 years old and said, "Hey, I'm gonna put you on straight commission," I would have been like, "Whoa, I got 3 kids.
Yeah, right.
I got 2 mortgages. I got this. I got car payments. I got bills, bro." So
right.
I wouldn't be able to. But I'm sure you run into that a lot when you're talking to agents that are hiring.
I love the way you put that too. I love the way you put it because when you're looking at experienced people too, they're not gonna, I've never heard of someone that's super experienced coming in and, wanting a starting pay at $24,000.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, it's even if they hear the top producer at the office, this does help for sure. And again, when you have an established agency and you tell Julie, that you got your top guy ready, they're making 150,000 a year. That makes a difference.
Sure does.
There's a story to tell, but there's still
stories sell. You're right.
Stories do sell. And then they can talk to that person in the interview. You can bring them in. That's what our company does a lot too, because it's a realistic approach and it helps attract the candidate to come work at the company. But no, I agree with you. And that's the tough part of finding that balance of how do you incentivize a good pay plan, but also reward with commission. And that's where probably bonuses come in. I'm seeing a lot of team bonuses with agencies lately. Heath, I don't know. I would have to dive in more about like exact numbers, but I do see a lot of on the captive side and independent side. They're basically, hey, we hit this number, then we all get a bonus as a company.
Right. Jeff, that's your homework. I need you to find that out for me. We'll follow up so that we may have to have another podcast on this.
I'll work till
maybe you can come visit Insurance Town. But no, I think that's cool. And let's get that elephant out of the room now. I appreciate you addressing that. That dude's stinky. But I do think that that's a big thing. A big part of the discussion when it comes to agency hiring is the compensation plan and what that looks like, and the incentives and the bonuses or the this or the that. It's huge. And so I think that's also why it's so important to attract the right client or the right hire. The right hire. And another reason why maybe they should reach out to Ideal Traits. And I want we've talked to you for a little while. People are probably still like, what's Ideal Traits? Who is this Jeff, guy? Yeah. Let's talk about,
the heck's he doing on here?
So, and I've enjoyed the conversation. I think it's great. I think the audience has too. And so let's talk about the ridiculously amazing insurance agents. What Ideal Traits does, what you're seeing right now, and maybe give a high level overview of what that is.
Sure. No, I appreciate that, Heath. I love helping agents with hiring. That's just a weird obsession because the typical agent doesn't like hiring, so if you're sitting there listening and you are someone who is looking to hire, if you're a small agent that wants to hire once a year or an agent that's looking to grow at a fast pace, or we can help you. So it's a platform. We're not a recruiting firm. We're not a job board. We're a all-in-one insurance hiring platform. We're basically, you sign up with us and we can either create the ads for you or you can create them yourselves using our specific templates built in. And we really want to make sure that you have everything we were talking about today, right? Marketing your agency. The great products out there that you use on a daily basis. The only reason you're using it is because they had great marketing behind it. And so we want you, if you have a great opportunity and you're sold on your agency and your employees love you, well, let's get that on an ad. Let's make it mobile friendly. Let's make it search engine optimized so you get the best exposure possible. And now it'll go out to all the job boards that we're affiliated with. And then our meat and potatoes is our assessment. That's going to go out to every candidate that applies, allowing you to dive deeper into the candidate, allow you to predict the job performance, allowing you to see how they think outside the box. They answer some short answer questions for you as well. And you can navigate all this through one portal. And it's something you can rely on it. And as you could be, if I asked you if you're 1 out of 10 recruiter, even if you're a 9.5, if you're a 10, well, then maybe we can't help you. But if you're a 9.5, we can help you because this is all we do. And so along the way, you can talk to our team, and they're working with really only insurance agents. So we're not having you reinvent the wheel. We're telling you how other insurance agents are hiring successfully. because we see it firsthand on a day-to-day basis.
And so you've got those best practices probably in your mind and that you could help people with.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're doing that research on a day-to-day because it's always changing too. What
it is. And
3 years ago doesn't work as much now.
No. One of the things I liked and I wanted to ask you, follow up on this was, you talk about this assessment.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, just what that kind of looks like. And as an offshoot of that, if I'm, again, let's go back to XYZ agency owner. If I'm having trouble thinking of, the right questions to ask or things like that, is that a place where you guys can come into play? Okay.
So great question. This is created by,
sorry.
I feel like I'm in a pitch, right? Let's go. Here we go. This assessment's based off the DISC. So some people out there that are familiar with assessments, great. It's based off the DISC. And it's tailored to the insurance industry because it went through our 3 insurance agents, the owners of our company. Actually, one's still an agent today. The other 2 sold their books and now they are full-time with the company, helping it grow. But this is the only really insurance specific assessment. And what's going to happen is when the candidate takes the assessment online, it'll have your logo, it'll have your agency name. So they know what assessment they're taking. You don't have to do anything as the agent. Like, you're not creating a customized assessment here. There's going to be 16 different personality results when someone takes the assessment. And one of the results could be inconsistent. So like if they're trying to cheat the assessment's really smart. It'll come back where they're contradicting their answers. But a couple of the results, as I mentioned, sales leader, the opposite of the sales leader is a perfectionist who's better for a, customer service admin role. So again, it's something where as the agent, we know that you don't want 30 pages to read. We know there's assessments out there. If you like those, great, you can use them. And we can give you that information on this assessment. But typically what we find is agents just want the nuts and bolts. And that's what we give them on this assessment. Tell them what role they fit best, their strengths and weaknesses. And then what the agent can do from there is see how they also match up to their existing staff. And then make sure you're hiring the best fit and have a standardized recruiting process. And again, eliminating the cognitive biases that I think every single one of us have, unfortunately. And it's tough to get rid of.
No, you're right. I love you have a BS meter built in that you can tell them.
Sure.
That's pretty cool because I'm sure you see it more often than not, unfortunately, that there are people that cheat that assessment.
Well, I mean, especially there's assessments out there that's like, hey, 1 through 10, how great do you think you'd be at sales? And it's like, I mean, 10. What is that? Yeah, right. It was like, what is that? And then that gets stereotyped because that's technically called an assessment. So that's where I definitely want, and when agents say, hey, I never liked using an assessment because of X, Y, and Z. Hey, I feel you, but take this assessment. Let's regroup in 2 days. Let's go over it because I'm that confident. I stand behind this assessment. I think it's super accurate. We've done a lot of testings on it, and agents seem to really benefit from it.
Yeah. Or, you've seen those assessments, not to call anybody by name, but they'll say, for use your example, 1 to 10, how great are you at sales? And the very next question might be 1 to 10, how great are you at service? They say 10 on everything.
Yeah.
We all know there's nobody out there that's good at everything, obviously.
No. Or they put 9s on all of them, It's
right. Like yeah. So, I like that you're a little, especially that you're insurance focused. That's pretty cool. And so, yeah. Dude, Jeff, I can sit here and talk to you forever, but I got to be, respectful of Kelly's audience and her team.
For sure.
So I do want to wrap up a little bit, but I do want to give you an opportunity to, maybe share some contact info or how they could find you, how they could find Ideal Traits. Take the floor for a minute and give me some of that. Yeah, man. No, I really appreciate having me on this. I mean, shoot, I think podcasts are great to get the word out there, and hopefully people saw a lot of value in this. Again, you're not alone. If you're struggling with hiring, you are absolutely not alone. So don't feel insecure. We just look for ways to get better without giving up. That's the grand scheme of things. And that's where Ideal Traits will help you. And my number is 248-457-5716. Even if you just want to try out the assessment or just get just a little bit of information, I'm an easy guy to talk to. At least that's what people tell me. That's what your assessment says. That's what my assessment says. Right. Unorganized, definitely not thorough, but
That's okay. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you, and Heath and me will if you contact Heath too, he'll probably share my contact information too.
I will, unless I don't think they're a good fit, and then I won't.
There you go. And find me on Facebook and LinkedIn, man. I mean, seriously, I'm loving. I noticed more agents are on Facebook than ever before, so they collaborate on there.
Spell your name for him because it's a different spelling. I said Sophiea, but make sure that you spell it out for him.
Lebanese. It's weird. There's 3 vowels at the end. It's Sophiea.
IEA. There you go. So if you're looking for him, there you go. Dude, thanks a lot for hanging out with us and joining us today. Hopefully Kelly won't fire me from being a podcast host.
Yeah.
Hopefully
she's going to come back to Hawaii and be like, guys, you didn't get anything done that I told you to do.
Right.
Talk about football and stuff. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's funny. Brother. Thank you.
Hey, absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Let's do this again sometime.
Definitely.